All right, we'll start off by, so we have it all one time. Give me your name, your official title this year, because it might change.
It did. Changed this week.
That's a good thing?
Yes, it's a very good thing.
Okay, so give me that and spell it.
Okay, my name is Danielle Battle, Danielle Battle, and I am the professional learning designer for STEM for DC PS.
Give me DCPS,
District of Columbia Public Schools.
Wow.
Worked for a year and a half to get that title.
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes we miss the point that we get on to the science and the technology. That's all really pretty, and even the engineering. But if you don't have the M,
Right.
none of it works. So get me understand math and STEM.
Okay, so my focus is definitely the math portion, heavy in the elementary grades because they're the most important. If you look at STEM, and a lot of people I think tend to gravitate towards the science and the engineering because that's the more glamorous of them all. But when you really break it down, if you're doing physics, if you're doing anything, it's really hard to do it if your math skill set is low, even outside of STEM, just day-to-day life. But when you look at STEM, the idea is that what you want is when kids are taught math well at an early age, they start to see patterns. They start to notice things so that when you're in a science class, when you're watching Petri dishes or anything, when you're recording your information, the information is speaking to you before you're even starting to really pick it apart because you've learned to look for patterns. You have that deep number sense that a lot of people take for granted. They look at kindergarten and think, it's kindergarten. You learn your numbers, you move on. But when you're 5 and 4, that's abstract. That's a crazy concept. And so a big part of STEM, me educating STEM teachers, especially math, is to get teachers to remember that this is a foreign language. The symbol of a 1, the amount of a 1, the word 1, those are 3 extremely different things that we as adults, we merge together very quickly. But what we have to do is get our teachers to slow down and really see that if we can take our time so that math is never overwhelming, because it doesn't have to be. If you think about it, if we really stop and we really build math from pre-K even, then what you have are these people who are designed to think deeper in any instance. There's even research out now that says in pre-K grades, if you really focus on math and having kids explaining what they're seeing and talking about what they're seeing, that their literacy skills rise up also. Because when you're reading a fiction book or nonfiction, if it interests you or not, you're like, yes, there was a dog, there was this, there was that. But when you're spending a lot of your day talking about how you got a certain number and how you worked that, then when you're reading, all of a sudden how you focus on books changes because of how you're learning to focus in math. So we're trying to get our teachers to see that there is a very powerful value, even beyond STEM, to have really strong math education, even from the very early primary grades.
Great. Well, sorry. It goes 2 ways. How do you do that with teachers? And even more so, how do you do that with parents? Because kids are going to learn from the parents just as much at that age as they do with teachers.
Right. So first with the teachers, what I like to do personally is when we're in the district, we're pushing inquiry in math. As Kai kind of changes the flow of things to have this more like STEM-centric vision, hopefully, I want to edit that out, sorry. She's not saying that yet, but she better. Sorry, scrap that. What I tend to do is when I'm training my teachers, what I like to do is start with a concept that is higher up, probably like a 6th or 7th grade concept that you, back in the day, most likely memorized the algorithm for. You were told this is how you get that answer. And what I do is I present it in a way so that if that algorithm popped into your brain immediately, you could answer my question. It wouldn't be a tough riddle, so to speak. But because all of us were just taught, remember this, use it when I tell you to, it doesn't naturally bubble up as an answer. So what happens is I have these teachers going through, measuring all these little things, doing whatever, all this kind of busy work in a sense to get to let's chart our information, and slowly but surely it's almost like you get a giggle when people see like, oh my gosh, we're doing like the formula of circumference. And had I just remembered that, I would have been able to apply it and use it. But they don't, because it's almost guaranteed that we were all taught the same way, and that when you're not thinking of circumference, you move on. So that's how I started to be like, and let them see like, this is what your kids would do every day. And I guarantee now, if somebody asked you anything about circumference, whether they said the word or not, what we learned today as a reminder for you you would remember it. And so that's how I get my teachers on board with the concept of give kids something that's a little bit more than what they know, a little different, let them grapple with it. You have to talk about failures. You have to embrace your own failure in front of your kids. You know, I always tell them, tell a cute, funny story about how you did something wrong once, and so that kids see that you're human, it's less embarrassing. Celebrate a failure. Oh my goodness, this was so close. You were so close to the right track. Who can help so-and-so just get on board? Then that nervousness that we tend to really kind of instill in kids in math starts to dissipate. Because now it's this adventure. We're on an adventure. My teacher is the same way as I am, so I can go with them on this adventure and I don't have to be embarrassed. And so that's how I work with it, with the teachers. With parents, what I end up having to do, because I don't really touch parents, is I have to talk to teachers about how they have to speak to parents. And I talk about like send home a newsletter, send home worksheets, or even photocopies out of your teacher guide or something you got offline, whatever that concept is, however you're laying it out. A big way that we're reaching families in the district is that we have a new initiative called Cornerstones, where it's very fleshed out tasks. And they are tasks that every single school has to do. So all fourth grade kids will have the same exposure experience, so that no matter where you go, you have these moments to hold on to share with each other. There's a little bit of equity in that. And one big thing in the Cornerstones is that we have a whole family engagement piece. So it allows them to see, well, this is something that a child could do 4 cornerstones in a instructional window. So we have this whole setup that's for parents, to be able to really look at it and say, well, here's what my student is doing, here's why, and here's something that I can do at home to support what's going on in the school, even if it's for this little moment. So our newer teachers who are struggling with communication and our seasoned teachers who forget, this is kind of what parents need to know. Now there's this moment, there's these little moments all throughout the year where every parent, no matter where you come from, no matter what ward you're in, are getting these same messages. And their children are getting these same experiences. And that's more than just STEM. That's in PE, music, everything. But this is how we're starting to open those lines of communication and start to kind of like hone all of our skills in central office to pour into schools, to pour out to families.
Great. Because intelligence is given across the scale, no matter what income, what race. It's just certain people are gifted. Makes no difference. It's across the scale. That being said, what can communities do, just in case a person that's gifted happens to be in a family that's not as fortunate dollar and cent wise? What can churches and groups do to really embrace math as a community event?
So there are a few things that you can do. For one, it is being learned that being gifted is really being practiced outside of some very extreme moments and extreme people, but they're saying like great singers are practiced and that great mathematicians are practiced. You have savants and things like that, of course, but so I think that's something that number one should start to be messaged to communities in general, is that you can make greatness no matter who these kids are. You can have a kid come in so below, but you're just below from lack of exposure, right? So if we start to tell our community centers and our churches and our delegates, everyone, if we get that messaging out that you can make anybody great, then I think that automatically starts the change. So then when you have that in you, then what you can start to do is your organizations you can pull, there's different resources online, that's true. I would really suggest that that's a good question. And I know I said something great last time. I don't remember what it was.
What?
Sorry.
No, what you said last time. And again, that's the wonderful thing about editing. What you said last time was the online piece, and there
Did
were
I?
some things online that give you a complete curriculum that someone can
That's
do.
right.
And they don't even have to know math because all the questions and the answers are everything.
That
right
is what
there.
I said.
Yes, ma'am.
Good,
And
good.
we just want you to say that again.
I'll say it again. Yes.
Everybody ready?
Sorry.
It's all good. That's why we do this.
Good. I was like, what did I say? I was like, they asked this before. I said something great too.
And it was wonderful. We got me inspired. So we'll start it again, and you can just pick it up and we can cut it in.
Okay.
But what we're saying is, how can community groups help? And it's not even a struggle. It's not even a challenge. How can we be better community?
Right. So a big thing that groups can do is go online. So there's tons of different curriculums and resources. You can look at something like Engage New York, which was designed as a school curriculum, and it just has every single piece. So I'm not saying it's the best, but what you have here is that, say you're a church, and say what you have is Miss Patty, who does the pancake breakfast, decides that she wants to contribute because she wants to make greatness in her community. But maybe she doesn't know math that well. And like I've said before, is that it's a skill to teach math, especially to young children. But what you can do is pull down these online resources, and here's this robust curriculum that even has in it, word for word, what you could say to a child. So as a teacher, that's a bit much a lot of times because you know what you want to say. You might use that for inspiration. But for somebody who's coming from a community that really doesn't know what the expectation should be or what they should be asking, here's a curriculum where they can just look and read and say, oh, okay, I'm going to ask these 4 questions. And then here's what I should get from it. Now you have it's like a teacher manual that's very scripted, so that an everyday Joe can come in and become successful. And pretty soon they'll get into the rhythm of it. You know, you start to see what you should be looking for. You know, if they can get on a site like LearnZillion. So LearnZillion is developing a full curriculum. But right now you can go on there and you can get videos for free. And the videos will show you exactly how to teach a concept. So if you have the standards, so if you use the Common Core standards, you can look on there and see what kids need to know. You can even talk to teachers, have reports sent home. Here's the standards where these kids are struggling. You can go right on LearnZillion, watch a video. It'll tell you how to teach it. You can even watch the videos together and then have a discussion. So while you're learning, Miss Patty's learning, and the kids are learning at the same time. So there's a lot of resources so that people don't have to be frightened of trying to contribute to the greatness of their kids.
Because we know that M in STEM is important, and the STEM train is train to the future. That we all have to get together and make this thing happen. It's not, to me, any positive reinforcement you can get to a young person around a skill set is a good thing. Kind of say that for me.
So the big thing with STEM is that it's the future, and we can't deny it. And I think the problem, especially in a lot of inner city communities, is that those are the things that you're being told that you're not great at. You know, oh, you're working too hard. You have to work so hard in math, and it's little reward. You know, where if we take the time to really sit down, math is almost a natural thing in elementary grades, especially at grade 3. Age 3, not even grade 3. There's a natural propensity to want to sort and count and to manipulate things and to put them into different groupings. And so what happens is a lot of times that we take that away from kids, you know, and it's true that when you have a kid who has less exposure to a parent with talk time, if you have one parent that's working hard to get you where you need to be, there's less talking than if you have 2 parents. There's less talking than if you have a parent that's home all day long, you know, and that's a reality. That doesn't mean that that parent's not being a great parent. It just means that there are different structures that are not there that we as educators, as community leaders, we need to figure out how to put those structures in place. So a lot of it is that you'll see homework being given or a homework time. You'll go somewhere in those homework time and it's very quiet and everybody's just working. And I think what we need to realize is that this is a time where we need to be talking to our kids. Because you can do the homework, and that's fine, but can you explain to me the homework? Can you explain it and then be wrong? And then I know that what I want to do is talk to you about why it's okay to be wrong and why you're so close to being right. But if I don't talk to you about it, then all you ever know is that you were wrong. You don't know how close you were. So I think that big thing of, as we look towards inner city kids really embracing the STEM of the future, is that we have to be far more conversational, which requires more. It requires more from parents. It requires more from homework time than just 30 minutes, do it until it's done, everyone's answered, let's go. And it's scary for parents because you're going to look at math that you don't know. Everyone complains about this new math. It's the same math, it's just teaching it from the other end. It's teaching it so that kids know, why am I borrowing? Why am I crossing that number out and putting a little number up here? We were just told to do it. Where kids now are like, well, no, what I'm doing is I'm taking apart this other number so that I can put some of it over here and keep some of it. And now you have this whole concept where kids, even though we're only seeing the hard part of it in these elementary grades, when you start to move on to 8th and 9th grade, when you start to do algebra, that class that so many people dreaded, you're naturally an algebraic thinker. Now when you're decomposing things, when you're looking at different ways to create a number. So that's what we want. So it's scary in a sense for a parent who's like, look, I work a 9 to 5 and I come home and I love my kids and we do homework time and then please let us just read a book because I know how to read, where it's the time where parents have to say, hey, you're in 2nd grade and I don't know what you're doing. So can you teach mommy how to do that? Then I know what you're doing. And parents don't think like that's a great way to see if your kid knows what they're doing, that now they're justifying what they did. Well, are you sure that it works like that? Oh, yes, mom, because blah, blah, blah. Now, all of a sudden, those standards of mathematical practice that are hidden inside of the Common Core, those 8 things that really are what's changing the game for teaching and changing the game for how kids see math and learn math, now you're touching on them at home and you don't know them. Parents don't know what those 8 things are. You don't know that you're teaching your kid to persevere because they're teaching you how to. They're justifying their work. You might be like, well, hey, can we try this with paper clips? You're using tools. All you have to do is have a conversation. You don't have to know it. You don't have to understand the new way of deconstructing numbers or using number bonds, number lines. There's tons of different things that we use. You don't have to know that. You just have to know that your kid knows it and make them teach it to you. And then you can be secure in knowing that they're on their way.
Right. Another concept that that I remember is a safe place to make mistakes. And we all need that, and we have to, their parents and groups know that we have to develop that safe.
So one of my biggest pushes anywhere I go, to anybody that I talk to, children, adults, it doesn't matter, I always talk about that you have to celebrate mistakes. And more so than celebrating, you have to let kids know that it's a safe place to make a mistake, that mistakes are part of the journey. When we were young, we all heard like the Michael Jordan quote about how he didn't get on the high school basketball team or whatever, and that's great. These kids don't know Michael Jordan, and that doesn't matter when I'm sitting in class because I don't relate that to classwork. We need to have a place where, again, you're discussing and you're talking so that each step is honored. So that when kids start to go off track, if you're talking to kids in math, if there's conversations going on, then when kids start to derail, you'll know why even before they do. So then you can know how to talk to them about being like, and get them back on track. Classmates will be able to help them get back on track without you prompting if you're building conversations. And that can't happen if a kid immediately feels like all I can do is give the right answer. And it's a very hard tradition almost to break. Number one, I love being right. So sometimes I laugh at myself when I hear me talking to people about this because I prided myself on being right as a child, and adult also. But what we have is that we have these moments now where the math is harder for parents to understand. So this is a great time for parents to be wrong in front of their kids, even if they get it. Be wrong once in a while. Let your child be like, what? No. That is very empowering. As teachers, be like, let's work through this, or, oh, this was so hard for me. Like, maybe you guys can give me a better way to do this. It's very easy to make places safe for kids to explore their own understanding, which is what we're really looking for. It's not so much that we want kids to make mistakes, but we want kids to be free to explore what's really going on in their minds. Because you've been in a classroom where you see that you can, in a traditional classroom, you can walk in and you can tell the top 3 high flyers in whatever subject that you're working on when you come in. But if you get a classroom where there's discussion, there's like, you're working it out, where if I'm giving you an inquiry-based lesson, then what I'm doing is I'm giving you something that you've kind of never seen before. I tend with young groups say don't give them something totally brand new unless not early in the year. Now, once you're into the year and they're rolling, give it to them, because if they mess it up, they won't care. And what'll happen is they'll have 1,000 questions to ask you when you get up to model. So when you throw these things in front of kids, then what happens is there are no high flyers. Now everybody that participates is on their way. Then kids who are shy, who have never participated before, at first won't, because they've been trained that you don't have anything to contribute. But they're listening to, oh, so these 2 people who always get stuff right are asking questions. Like all of a sudden they start to notice everyone around me is asking questions. Then it becomes okay. Then it becomes everyone around me is making guesses, not giving answers, making guesses. Now you've created this culture where it's safe to say, well, I think it might be this. And then as teachers become more gifted in it, then teachers know how to respond to different students of different levels to get different things. They start to know who to ask first so that you're not going to the kid who gives the right answer immediately, because then everyone in the class is like, well, that's the right answer, and I don't want to participate. So it takes a skill to like really lead a class, but once you have it, then what happens is this whole new dynamic. And then kids are really authoring their own learning, and then you've got kids who won't forget. They won't forget what they learned in 4th grade, 3rd grade, 12th grade, college, because they've learned how to author their own education, how to really sit and figure out what's really happening and what do I need to remember to use this in the future.
You got a question back here, man?
I got one thing, it's not a question. I'm a kid that you're trying to get to grasp math. So I want you to look at the camera when you say this.
Okay.
And tell me why math is so important and why I need to really get on top of my math skills for the future.
Sorry. Math is important for a million different reasons. Number one, you'll find math in every single day. In almost every single thing that you do, there's some component of math. And even if you want to write music, then there's patterns in all of music. If you want to do television production, if you're writing out a script, you have to time every single piece of your show. So that requires math. There's math in every sport. There's math everywhere. And even if you somehow sneak by and do something that doesn't require a ton of math, if you're great at it, then the goal is to make money. And if you make enough money, what you don't want to have to do is to entrust somebody who paid attention in math class with all of your money. You want to have a working knowledge of math so that you are always in control of your personal life, your assets, your everything. Because what we've learned is that in order to really be empowered, you have to have control over your life. So you can't say, well, now I'm a millionaire, I'm the next Jay-Z, I'm the next Steven Spielberg, but I don't know how to invest my money. I don't know how to take care of it. I don't know how to even to work my time to make sure that people aren't waiting on me or that I'm not late, because all of those little tiny things that we don't even think about that require math skills are those things that really talk about who our character is. So without math, you're late. You're skipping dates. You're missing things. You're not balancing checkbooks. Then your credit score goes down. You can't hire a team to do anything if you can't even get a credit card. Like, that's how people are moving forward now. They're like, movies are made on credit cards. You know, so every little tiny piece, even though when you're young it doesn't seem important, all of these things add up to be really a part of your character and a part of your future.
Great. You got one back there, bud? Everybody participates here, bud.
That's the same thing that I've been preaching. I actually teach